Okay. Setting up the meeting for YouTube Live.
But you have a YouTube channel already.
Okay, wonderful. All right. Hi, everyone. Welcome to our very first Dear Asian Women podcast with Ishel and me, Kyla. Welcome, Ishel. How are
Hi,
you?
Taylor.
So we thought today we would share about how we got here from there. And Ishel is someone who is a tea leaf wizard and an incredible dear friend of mine, such a growth inspiration. I love how she does business. I love how she does life. I love how she shows up. I love how how she guides and heals through her work. And it's really just she and I were just talking one day over Lai Cha, those of you who know milk tea, Hong Kong. We went to a Hong Kong cafe and we get into these really, really deep talks and we were like, well, why don't we record these? Because maybe people might be interested in listening or not. So here we are. And so Ishel would love to hear from you, like how you got here from there, or anything else you'd like to share.
Oh, thank you, Kyla. I always feel like it's so grateful that it took me so many years. Finally, I get to feel more comfortable right now to talk about my own journey or to share my own journey with many like-minded of good dear friend like you that truly will understand and align with my intention or how I like to explore my own spiritual journey. So it's been, I would say, at least more than 10 years of exploration. And as a Malaysian Chinese, I originally born and grew up in Malaysia. So like many Asian women, we've been educated or been conditioned of thought to be more quiet our own voice, to follow the rules or how to behave, how to speak, how to talk, how to dress, how to, to follow the what, to fulfill the expectation from our culture, many of our culture. I always feel like I carry a lot of fears, even though I didn't recognize it in my early years when I came to US. I already feel like a lot of people thought, "Oh, you are such courageous. You came here by yourself." But when I get here, even because I found out because my excitement back then is bigger than my fear. So that allowed me to be able to bring myself here to explore all this unknown journey ahead.
Mm.
I feel like after I came here, I be able to meet people can understand me better, to hear instead of all about what career, what professional, which university, or all this very typical and classic kind of day-to-day conversation that we're very familiar back home in Asia. I found more interesting topic. People ask about how do you feel? What would you like to explore? What excites you? Some more interesting question that invite you to explore deeper. So I have, for a really long time, I have been carrying a lot of fear to express my own curiosity about the spiritual path
Mm.
because almost none of all my Asian peers or friends, most of them are engineer or profession like that I can have that conversation with.
Mm.
I look, when I start the it sounds like I'm really out of the picture. So it's been a long time since I have a really good, dear good friend since high school, but I'm always the one to just keep quiet and just be there to observe their play, their conversation, but I never feel interested in participate because it doesn't align with my heart. And I've been always hesitate because I've been carrying so many fear of judgment and the expectation is like something is not right about me or something, you know, why you are so different than others. What kind of topic you try to be like different, or you try to be like, you sounds like, oh, you know, or you read a lot or something like that. So I don't want to feel that. That was my fear that in the past. So I always just keep quiet until I came here and I met a lot of people and I found like I getting more and more heavy, my energy and feel. After years of trying different career and things, I slowly lost my passion, how I feel excited when I just decided to came here without anything, without knowing nobody.
Wow.
So is that at that point I feel like I was really lost. And I feel like, you know what, I have to find myself back. Instead of keep chasing or please other people to fulfill what they want to see in me.
Mm.
That's when I think one day I woke up in the middle of the night and said, I have enough. I'm not came all the way here and try and struggle and moving 13 times in the past few years to bring myself into this kind of state of being. I'm here to really looking and fulfill what my heart longs for, which I knew the answer is already there. And I just carry so much weight of other people, judgment and expectation. Actually, part of it is I repeated myself all this time. So I didn't claim it.
Mm.
So I feel like you can understand that. So I think one night, one day I overheard some lady have a conversation about some reading, about some clairvoyance and spiritual. My ears like, even though they are just like next table to me, I said, oh, that sounds real interesting. So what is that? And but I didn't go and ask. Even I knew them, they're my friends, but we are like in a gathering. So, but I remember the name they mentioned. So during the middle of the night, I woke up and I start Google that name and try to find out where is it, what is it about. And even though I have no clear what exactly it is about, I feel like I want to be there. I didn't have a car and I'm afraid to let people know that I was going to explore something different. So I didn't dare to tell anybody to take me there. So I just like Google out, so, oh, how can I walk to the BART and from BART to take a walk for another 45 minutes to get to that place to attend their workshop, like a meditation or something. And by the time I got there, the teacher and the people find out I walked there, they were shocked.
How long was the walk? Just so for people to get the sense.
I think about 40 to an hour. I forgot exactly. I just using the map and look at my phone, but I don't, and I didn't even understand what that workshop is really about. Back then, there was like all they call, or the very first free available workshops that you can walk in is a transmediumship. I have no clue what is transmediumship. Even I try to Google it, I still don't quite understand. But I said, you know what? Doesn't matter. I just want to go and find out.
That's awesome.
That's how I started my mini adventure to explore. And I think I set an intention at that without it. I say, if this kind of exploration, the meditation, the clairvoyance training or classes that they started is meant for me, I will find my way to be able to go there in a convenience, accessible way, not by walking all the time, like an hour together, because the class is going to be in the evening, like from 7:30 to 9:30 back then. So, and just happened in the very first free class, the teacher said, "Oh, is anybody can kindly drop off some of our friends at the BART station would be great." So one lady turned over, sitting next to me, asking me, "So where do you live?" I said, "Oh, I live in Lafayette." She said, "I live in Lafayette too. I can bring you home." And I was through. I said, "Really?" And after that, she told me right away, the very first time we met, if you decided you want to start for the meditation class too, for the set, I will pick you up and drop you home for all this session. It truly is like, I just have that thought. So I'm not quite sure whether I should start learning about this meditation and starting this class. And right away, a stranger turned over and told me, "So where do you live?" And she volunteered. It was like almost 8 years, 9 years ago. I was like, that is a sign. So then is where I started to follow my heart. And then since then, all the doors and new possibility and new support start popping up. That's my very first thing that I feel like something is truly alive with me, because I did went to different like meditation classes, went to different temple, Japanese style, Buddhist style, all kind of, until I find this is a very neutral way to tap into my own intuition without attached to any religious and anything, any dogma. And I feel like that's it. That's where I feel comfortable to start and allow myself to experience all this.
Wow, that's so cool. I mean, there's so much, right? Like you came to the US, you know, with yourself. And then you mentioned that like you came all the way here and then you were like, but that point of having no more passion,
Mm-hmm.
no more excitement. And, it also sounds like, alignment, right? Congruency of what you're doing. And by the way, everybody, Ishel um, used to run a Malaysian restaurant as well, right?
Malaysian Singapore restaurant. Yeah.
Restaurant just for like 8 years, like how long?
Not just about 2 or 3 years. I don't remember exactly. I feel like when I decided to turn that page over, everything from my past is kind of flooded. A lot of people asking which year, which day do you do this? I feel like that's been a really long previous life of mine. So it just started. I kind of lose connection with all my previous past early this year
Mm,
when I decided to like really show up, even after like you asked me how do I get here as a tea wizard doing tea leaf reading, right? I I just started doing it openly and publicly just a year ago to the public within like just barely 2 years. But I did have that training back to 8 years back. But it took me so long to
mm,
allow myself to be seen,
mm. Yeah,
to
that's
allow myself to be out there and be able to speak my own truth, to open up my voice.
mm,
Throughout all those year training, I still hide.
mm.
I
Yeah,
still have so much fear, as probably you can relate.
yeah, that's so powerful. I mean, you also talked about um it's not the typical path for an Asian woman,
Yes.
like the engineer, doctor, lawyer. Um, it's not the typical profession, but I also want to add that it is a profession too, right? Like what you're doing.
Yes.
And it's just so interesting, like what it is that we label, right? That's a profession if you're like a lawyer or a doctor or an
Mm,
engineer. But if you're like in sort of like healing or alternative healing, then therefore it is not a profession. Um, so yeah, but I'm happy to share, and thank you so much, Ishel, too, for sharing your story. I'm happy to share mine too. Um, so yeah, for me, I was living in Korea at the time. So my mother is from Singapore, my father is Japanese American, and I was born and raised in Hong Kong. So I'm a third culture kid, which I was just sharing with Ishel. Like, she was like, "What? You were born and raised in Hong Kong? I didn't know that." But yeah, and then I was living in Korea before moving to the Bay Area. Well, I lived there for about 11 years, about 3 years ago. And I was working and living there as a professor, teaching English as a second language. I had created a workshop I called the Happiness Workshop, brought it around the world, spoke in 16 countries across the continents, and I was like calling myself a global happiness coach. And like, then, of course, in my own personal life, my mom was diagnosed with early onset dementia, and I fell into a very deep depression. And similar to you, Ishel, like, I had not heard of anything, like any kind of alternative, anything. I ended up quitting my job at the university and taking the year off. I hired my first life coach, became a certified life coach, got certifications in happiness coaching, corporate happiness coaching, started a pop-up cafe in my apartment, serving no salt and no refined sugar dishes. And then, I think there's those defining moments, right? Like you going to that meditation, trans mediumship, right? Is that?
it's meditation and then like transparent. It's kind of allow you to like intro. What
Oh,
is it about? And I find out actually is not what I thought, what I watched or what I knew from the movies. Nothing. It's not at all.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
It's not.
And then
So
and then
that's kind of
somehow,
open up my eye about learning a new gaining. I think I also gain a new perspective for what I don't know about instead of living in my own assumption.
that's so good. Yeah, I mean, I was kind of like like I had no idea about anything. And then I ended up literally, I was like, oh, maybe I should go on a women's retreat. Never went on one, didn't know what they were. Googled best women's retreat in Bali,
Mhm.
and then ended up going on this women's surf yoga retreat. And then I ended up meeting this woman who is a theta healing practitioner, totally changed my life. Prior to that, I had done 5 sessions of therapy, maybe at Harvard in graduate school, because I
Mhm.
had like imposter syndrome, which I didn't even know what that was back then, but I guess I had it. And I ended up working with this theta healing practitioner for 2.5 years, one-on-one. And theta healing work is basically like limiting belief work. So it really was never about my mom. I mean, that was just sort of like, right, like the instigator, but it never really was about that. It was like layers deep that I never really knew myself. I never really knew who I was, what I'm here for, purpose, and all the things. And so yeah, so I end up working with this theta healing practitioner one-on-one for 2.5 years. And then in the spring, 2.5 years later, I started building out my medium and psychic abilities, which we in theta healing say that everybody has, anybody, you don't have to be special, or, we're all humans have this. And then I end up like getting certified in theta healing, and along the way, trying 25 or so different alternative healing modalities, and then just got certified in the ones that really helped me, which are, theta healing, um, integrative hypnosis, and then of course family constellations, which is what I do now. So it's what an incredible journey. I know we always talk about this, but similar to you, I had no idea. And sometimes, it's kind of like the universe, right, is like, oh, you didn't get to learn the lesson that time, so let me give you this. Yeah,
Yes.
you can now learn it this way. Like my mom's dementia, right? Like, here's an invitation to learn more about yourself.
Yeah. So
Uh,
true is I learned a lot more about myself and how my limited perception to look at life and many things that I used to thought I knew was actually just different lens
mm,
from my past that I've been conditioned to see from a very narrow or limited perspective.
mm. What's it? Can you give us an example of that?
It's like a lot of people look at, for example, like what I do for like a lot of people always thought when I say, oh, tea leaf reading. So it's a fortune telling, right?
Mm,
That's kind of always people first impression. That's made me feel like, ah, it would be great. Just like how I learned about all this clairvoyance training or intuition training. I went to like the intuitive way for learning intuition. It's nothing like what I thought it was from the movie or from the society told us. It's more about tune into your true self. So you'll be able to speak your own truth from a more neutral perspective. That's
mm,
why I said, oh, I think it's a great way to use tea as a tool. Since I already am co-founder of the Fabula Tea with my partner, so it's a great way to bridge that two part together, our physical part and our intuitive self together as a
mhm,
tool to allow people to use tea to view their situation from a different perspective and raise above it. So they'll be able to observe by observing the tea leaf pattern, so they'll be able to see something that they never noticed before. So bring the unconscious conscious and
mm.
bring the like formless into a physical form in front of them. So
Mm.
they'll be able to expand their perception and rise above their situation and be
That's-
able to reclaim their personal power.
I love that. And I was just thinking, it's just so interesting, like how life is, in the sense that, you know, in the beginning of your journey, you
Mm.
were saying that, people were like, or you felt that, what you wanted to do, or where you were headed on your journey, it was different from the engineer, doctor, lawyer, that type. And I think it's so beautiful how, what you're doing and how you're being with Fabula Tea. That's Ishel's company that she co-owns with her partner Kai Kenny. Um, that you guys are bringing this to like Genentech and like Stanford, and like these sort of very big companies that are typically seen from the eyes of this, the Asian parent's dream, right, for
Mm-hmm.
their kids.
Yes.
And you're bringing this very beautiful, deep work, and you're bringing it in your way.
Yeah, I think it's very important to invite people to explore. There's always a different side or different way to look at even very old traditional or healing art from a
Mhm.
new perspective. And they can be very relieving when they get in touch of that, because it helped me personally a lot. I feel like I'm very grateful to meet a lot of amazing creative people around me, like to encourage me to bring this what I kind of put it together, because I feel like it's been a long time for the last 5 6 years, even like many of a spiritual seeker or coach, we are continuous learning nonstop.
Yeah.
Always after this class, after this course, after this certification, after that training, we have an endless training. And we never feel we are in, like, at least for me, I never feel I have enough.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I'm doing enough to be able to share. So, nonstop. This coaching, that new, all this training under different teacher or teaching. And until one day, I think we've been collaborate closely with the Great Angelo Museum in San Francisco, right? The Great Angelo is the amazing creative, and he's the one, I think, he's keep asking me, encourage me
Mm.
to say, when are you going to do that? The tea leaf reading, even though I haven't done it to anybody there. So he here and he knew, he said, you can do it, just go ahead. When are you going to do it? Are you going to bring it out there? Are you going to do it in one of the event here and stuff? Or you going to create it? He said, until one day I feel like, yes, I think it's time.
Mm.
So I have all this mentor that around me encourage me to say, just give a try, just do it.
Mm. That's so beautiful. I mean, and having been to your Greg Angelo offering, everybody, it's amazing. Please go. I also thought, oh, it's going to be like tea leaf reading only. And totally not. I'm not going to spoil it, but it's amazing. Please go. I tell everybody about it. Um, but I think, it's one of those things where for like tea leaf reading or family constellations, it really is something that is so experiential.
Yes.
And no matter how much we explain, like, oh, you might experience this, it might be like this, you're stepping out of one world into another world, you're bringing the unconscious to the conscious,
Yeah.
you're portals of possibility of what you said about what family constellations is to you, really um taking the leap of faith, right? I think that there's maybe the thread in
Mm.
all of this and how we can wrap up this episode is really taking the leap of faith, right? Like taking the leap of faith to leave Malaysia, come to the States, taking the leap of faith to then start a Malaysian restaurant, taking the leap of faith to then do something that's even more congruent, more aligned, more mind, body, spirit driven, to start this Fabula Tea, do the Greg Angelo experiences. And for me too, like, I think the thread for both of us is um making this making something that's so seemingly
Mm.
alternative healing modality, and bringing it to the mainstream, like mainstreaming it to everyday humans who may not even know that they need it. And then we help them take a leap of faith with us, right? Because it's like this journey. And I think it's, yeah, I don't know. What do you think about that? The leap of faith.
I feel that absolutely. It's so true. It's not just, it's very important the fate of our own self, our own voice, our own intuitive higher self. So we can, when we allow ourselves to have that trust, it will lead us to the experience, like how I get to experience the family constellation and have a huge breakthrough that we can definitely. I'll happy to share that in the conversation for our
Mm,
next conversation soon. Is something really is a huge step for me. I
mm,
think is one of the bigger step that thanks for the family constellation experience. I get to renew my relationship with money.
mm.
That is a huge one that I've been struggle most of my life to be able to even talk about it.
Yeah, it's so profound. Yeah, well, we'll leave everybody with that cliffhanger for our next episode. But everybody, thank you so much for joining. And if you have questions or topics that you would like for us to talk about next time,
Mm.
or feel free to get in touch with us if you would like to experience tea leaf reading with Ishel and Kai Kenny in the Bay Area, or family constellations with me. Um, or if you just have questions for us, we are happy to answer. And thank you so much for joining us this first episode, and we look forward to seeing you again.